embrace it. I think it's
That's
good to
what I
go.
want to do. Actually, I did that, and Mariah didn't like it, so then I let it grow out again. But I was gonna buy one of those nice head shavers. We're a little bit tight.
I'm trying to convince Dave Harrington to be my new dad right now. That's why I haven't gotten a haircut. But
That's
all right,
that's a technique.
you start the video. Stop looking at your phone.
All right, so we are here today in the SOE compound. Andrew, combat art training. Lewis, tactical response instructor.
Yes, sir.
The 21-foot rule is gay.
Is
Look,
it,
so why
is
don't-
it though? But is it?
Let's
Maybe it is.
let's have you explain the Lewis way, what the 21-foot rule is, and then we'll have Andrew give a correction, and then we'll just jump into this. My whole issue, because I've actually been planning on doing this video for like 6 years.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay. So
It needs to be done.
it does need to be done.
So I'm playing catch up here because this kind of started with the conversation. What was the question you actually asked me, Andrew?
No, just
You said-
explain what the 21-foot rule
Yeah,
is.
you give the
You asked
background.
what the 21-foot rule was.
Well, that'll be
No,
next.
yeah,
Okay.
explain what it is.
So, 21-foot rule. If there's a man with a knife, right? So some people may know it as the Tueller principle or the Tueller drill. They may have heard that kind of stuff. So if a man has a knife and is at a distance of 21 feet from you, he can close that distance and put that knife in you.
That man pulls that
Knife.
out of you, a flame is going to come out, and nobody will ever stick a
Knife.
in your butthole again because it will be on fire.
Before you'd be able to draw your gun and put a round in you.
Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of the standard or the principle that has been set for quite a while in firearms training and law enforcement. It's been brought up in a lot of court cases.
Well, it was a court case.
Right.
Itself. So this set up precedent for shoot, no shoot
Right.
legal issues for police officers
Right. Like
who shot somebody.
Because he just had a knife
Right.
and I had a gun.
Right.
Like, why couldn't I just shoot him in the leg or shoot the knife out of his hand or
Right.
something like
Right.
that?
Or, leave because he's
Yeah,
only
right.
21 feet.
Yeah,
And he
he's-
only has a knife.
yeah.
You could surely
Like-
get away. Right.
Yeah, so
and it's 2
like-
seconds, right?
Yeah.
All right. So
A second and a half.
It's a second and a half?
I believe they found when they initially did all the research and had like numerous people do the run, the average person, and they had like old people, like people in their 50s, 60s, like injured people, were able to. The average human
Male.
being
or just human being.
like can cover 21 feet
In 1.5 seconds.
in about a second and a half.
And so, Andrew, why do we call this the 21-foot rule?
They call it the 21-foot rule because motherfuckers that can't shoot measure the distance in feet instead of yards. Now, I say that as a joke and also as a thing to recognize, to think about whenever people are talking about the distance between them and the target.
Right.
But also, you could think of it as maybe the thing I said, or maybe too, they're trying to make the idea of a dude with a knife sound scarier by saying, holy shit, 21 feet, because 21's a much bigger number than 7. Right? So in our brain, without seeing the distance,
Yeah, and that's the same debate, and like I mentioned it, like it wouldn't help you overcompensate as much to buy a 1 centimeter pistol, right?
Yeah.
But when you buy a 10 millimeter pistol, like now you're overcompensating
right.
like a mofo, right?
So here's my issue. And here's where I think things get lost in the sauce. I've been thinking about this for a long time because if you are a tactical guy, at some point, chances are you have heard someone say that they carry a knife instead of a gun because the 21-foot rule, the person with the knife can close the difference, whatever. Or they say they carry a knife and a gun because they can deploy it faster. Some silly bastardization like that. The issue is the 21-foot rule, this concept is based on you knowing someone has a knife when they're still 21 feet away and you know they're coming for you. And the thing to remember here is anytime you're in public, everyone is within 21 feet of you, and you don't know what anybody's doing. So the
Not
person,
me.
right?
I don't let anybody within my tooler zone.
Right.
I don't let them in my tooler loop.
So it's this crazy concept. People are like, man, why'd that cop shoot X, Y, and Z? I can close the distance from you with a screwdriver and kill you from 21 feet away when you know that I am coming.
Yeah.
And what that means as a police officer or as a person who is responsible for your own well-being is that if you're surrounded by people, any one of them could have a weapon sitting here like this and could have it in you before you even know to draw.
The other issue I have with that
Yeah.
too is
Well,
where
I
is
mean-
the gun in that Tuller drill? Like when they did that court case.
I
Because
think it's an average
So-
of front concealment.
So the where the gun is not necessarily, to my understanding, the crux of that argument, because the case was there were multiple officers, right, dealing with somebody with a large knife, so they had guns out, right, and they were telling him to drop the knife, and he started charging. They shot, right? So they were the actual what happened, right, and what Tuller was trying to defend on why they could. Kind of, he took it to the phase of, well, you can't draw and shoot at that distance, so you're dead. If you let him get any closer, right? Because I think the argument from the prosecution was like they should have waited until he was within touching distance,
Right.
And
and
it's
that's
like
retarded
that's-
behavior.
yeah, that's way too late. And
Way too
again,
late.
and like yes, the concealed knife and like magician, like if you don't see something coming, like yeah, of course it's gonna hit you before you fucking know,
Right.
right? Just like if I was 500 yards away up on that hill, like and
Right.
I send one at you, like,
Right.
it's gonna hit you before you know where I am.
but like consider with it, the 21-foot rule, is
If it
Consider-
makes
yeah.
you feel better, we can say 7-yard rule.
yes, please.
If it makes you,
yeah, because
Yeah.
I don't have the 7-yard rule. All right, so if you consider,
I'm pretty
is
sure
that-
that's a medical examiner's fault because or crime scene recreation, right?
Ah.
Because whoever measured it out probably didn't have yardsticks. They probably had like a tape that was.
Well, and
in
it probably
feet.
is more exact, whatever.
Right.
But
Mhm.
I'm not sure all of that. But the thing to think about is that metric is more unique to you. So if you have the gun in an outer waistband
Yes,
holster,
100%.
now does it have a hood over it and a button switch thingy before you pull the gun out? Or is it in inner waistband? What position is it? Is it in a pocket? Do you have the gun in your hand? Where is the gun pointed? Is it down? Is it at the ground? Is it straight on him? Because all these things are different factors. And then you go into how good of a shooter is that person? How fast are they going to press that trigger? Are they going to press nice and smooth? Are they going to slam it? Do they have a good enough grip to keep it on target? And then
And one round
it's not
It's not
gonna
gonna
be-
stop 'em.
It's not gonna stop someone from
No.
fucking
No.
like
You are starting
what-
a clock on him.
I want to know how we
A
can
long
measure
clock, yeah.
like stab splits.
Yeah.
Right.
Is it possible to figure out like how
Devil's Warrior.
quickly someone could go Puerto Rican sewing
Well,
machine?
and the other thing is like this inflicts so much more damage than a bullet. And
Note on
I-
that though, brain shots,
Do a
get
lot.
good at them.
Yeah, but it is pretty hard, I'm sure, with someone charging at you with a knife in the speed of your drill, but that's where
Yep.
you should be trained towards. But here's
Yep.
the deal. Law enforcement officers have to deal with some stupid stuff that we do not because they're wearing a uniform. So no matter what, they're going to deal with some really stupid stuff. For me and for you, when you are choosing your loadout, learn to shoot as fast as you can, as accurate as you can, but you should never think that someone is going to be like, I am going to kill you with this knife from 21 feet away, announce themselves. The reality of this is I could probably
They
be
can still do it.
Yeah.
right.
That's
They
the
could
scary
still do
part.
it.
That's the scary
So
part.
the
If it was
reality
an
is,
anime,
though,
they probably would. You know.
in the amount of time it takes for you just to make a decision, I could probably be at 50 feet already sprinting and still get to you. But we need to. When people talk about the 21-foot rule, the title is the 21-foot rule.
First of all,
okay,
it's right. Like we run the Tooler drill in our advanced classes. Like very few people can put any kind of accurate round down in under a second and a half. And here's where the internet is gonna go. We're trying like
I
fucking
can.
sub-second draw, sub-second draw, sub-second draw.
The-
Yeah, good job. Keep your feet planted,
Yeah.
right, and shoot that moving target in a sub-second and see if his momentum doesn't keep that
But-
knife going in you. I would encourage people to find out what their foot rule is personally.
Yeah, and-
right, and document that.
And-
That's what we do in advance. Like we do it once from the holster. We have a runner that is just a random person in class as the runner. We have a shooter and we have a stick man.
is that secret?
No.
Okay.
So the actually we've got a whiteboard. Let me show how we run it.
To the board.
Because I'd encourage people to do this
Get out of your way so you can get the center
with
there.
friends at a range. So
You have to talk louder when you're not.
yeah,
Are you supposed to give away the stuff that's in the advanced classes though?
this is fine.
Okay. You can also watch this drill on libertv.com if you watch the Advanced Fighting Pistol DVD.
7 yards, very good. Alright, those numbers down again.
So we have a shooter, right? So shooter. We have a stick man and runner. So we have a shooter at 7 yards from a target, cardboard target. We have a runner who is about 3 yards to the side of the target, but equal distance, and a stick man. The shooter is going to keep his eyes and focus on the target as if it were the man with the knife. The runner is going to get a signal from somebody or on their own just start running in this direction with no intention of stopping at this line. They are running through. Okay? So, however far they can get, when he starts running, the shooter can start their draw stroke and shoot this target. Okay? When the stick man, his job is to catch the runner, almost like a relay, start running with him, and drop a stick, or you could do it with like a soccer cone or something like that, in the spot where this runner was
When you heard the shot.
when he hears the shot.
If the shot even hit.
What we find is that most of the time, this runner has covered at least 10 yards.
Now, I want to clarify that when we're doing this, you're in a class and you know that this is what we are doing. And the amount of time it takes a regular person, even a person right here in this room, if we are at the mall, the amount of time it would take to realize what's going
Yes.
on, processing
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
it, and then draw
Oh.
and then shoot is
This-
significantly more.
This
and-
would be 20 yards.
and
Easy.
here's
Easy.
the other thing. Let's say I want to kill Andrew right now. I don't want him to see that I have this knife until I'm within knifing distance because I don't want to die myself. So when you are out and about, if someone wants to put a knife into you, they don't want you to know it until they are in distance. So if he doesn't know what's going on and I want to kill him, and I decide I'm going to start knifing him right now, I'm going to knife him 3 or 4 or 5 times before he even realizes that he has to start wrestling me to get to his or my gun. In this case, it would just be his gun because knife guy isn't carrying a gun and it would have shot, right? But I'm already going to have him with probably fatal wounds.
Yeah.
By the
Yeah.
time he even thinks it's time for me to draw my gun, wrestle out of here, get my gun, and he's slick with blood in the process. The 21-foot rule is a reason why you have to be vigilant. And at 20, anyone 21 feet away from you, if
This-
they want to kill you, they could have a knife.
This rule is for, hey, you, do not get any closer to me.
Right.
Like, we are already in a fucking
Right.
confrontation
Now-
at this point.
And so Jacob hit on the biggest point that I wanted to get to earlier was that, like, you think about the OODA loop: observe, orient, decide, act. A lot of people get stuck in that in their decision-making process. They're like, this can't be happening now. This isn't real. I wasn't expecting this. This isn't something that I am prepared for. And so them being able to act on that becomes very difficult. Now, something else Lewis touched on is keeping your feet planted, staying here. That is retarded behavior.
Yes.
Okay? Everyone likes to make fun of the, oh, you're doing a single sector, not really getting off the X. Yeah, we know. There's 20 people in the class.
It's domino number one, guys.
Yes.
Domino number
It's
one.
a thing to put in your brain that I need to start moving. I'm going to a better spot, cover, concealment, exit, putting stuff, putting this table between me and the guy who wants to stab me. But just think about, with all that, first we have to know that he has the intent to do this, and we have to have like a good reason to shoot him. We have to make sure this is in defense of human life or saving life by doing this. We have to have the skills to actually put him down. You can shoot him in the heart 5 times while he runs at you and still get stabbed. That's why I said get really good at brain shots. The fastest way to stop a bad guy from hurting you is to shoot him in the brain. And if we're going to do something lethal to him, why don't we just do something that also stops
it's gotta
him
turn off.
now?
And another important thing for that is, I don't remember where I heard this. I'm sure it was in a class. But I read about someone continuing to fight with 0 blood pressure for 30 seconds.
Shit.
Might have involved PCP, might have involved drugs, might have just been adrenaline, might have been pure motivation, but the fact that someone is bleeding and no longer has blood pressure does not instantly mean that the fight is over. So if I am a police officer, I'm in an altercation, and I draw and I start plugging rounds into Andrew here, I could be plugging them all center mass. I can dump the whole 17 or 18 rounds in there. That doesn't mean the fight is over. And so the reason that I wanted to do a video called the 21-yard rule is gay,
21 foot.
that one, 21 foot, is because people will take this legal defense of police officers and they will try to apply it to themselves and their decisions, but they don't understand the context, they don't understand the reality, and they are therefore misled in making well-educated decisions.
Yeah, and this is not just about the shot timer or the accuracy, right? But Lewis and I were talking about, I was like, dude, I would bet with the average shooter, the average gun owner, if you had a blade and you were good at running, you have to be good with the blade, but you're good at running.
Right.
You could probably fucking take on that dude with a pistol. The average shooter, you probably could.
Yeah.
The average shooter's not even going to get unholstered. They're gonna, the adrenaline's gonna hit. They've never done any training. They've never
Yeah.
practiced with
Like-
adrenaline. And
Like, when we start talking average,
average is a
shooter,
low,
right?
It's a
Like,
low bar.
very
like,
low.
If we were talking average dude who takes training classes,
It would still be fucking hard.
Because I see stuff in the fight
Yep.
where, like a force-on-force class, where people go for that draw stroke, like try and cheat a cover garment draw, they end up with some kind of this.
Yep.
And like this gun is like, they go to try and bring it out and it's stuck in their shirt.
Yep.
And the fucking gun's on the ground. Like it's ugly, guys. And know what works for you and what your metrics are. Because if you think that, like, hey, that guy who's talking shit with that knife, like, he can't really do anything to me because he's like 10 yards away, Like, no, man, you need to get your numbers down. And these are just examples and like rough averages. I see a lot of people get to the 40-foot point before a shot breaks
Yeah.
from the draw.
Well, like
And
if
we
I'm
do
sitting
it
here
from
eating at a
covert.
restaurant, right, and Lewis is like, draw your gun and shoot, someone could probably be 50 feet away. What are you talking about, Lewis? Like, what?
Yeah. So do it from the draw. Like, this is stuff you should document. So should you need to use it,
Shoot a guy who has a knife.
right? You have that documentation available for your defense. So I would do it this same scenario I've explained. Do it from the draw. See how far that runner can get. Do it from like a covert ready. So like if I saw someone over here with a knife and like I'm thinking he's pretty shady, I might get my gun out and behind me here and
Yep.
like, so I've got a gun in hand already right now. And like, okay, he's like, you know, cutting that apple and eating it. Like, I could always put this thing back.
The
right?
fastest draw stroke is a gun in your hand.
I want to say one more thing really quick. We can delete the knife, guys. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be a knife. It could be a screwdriver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could be a rock. It could be a
Broken
pipe.
bottle. Yeah.
It could be a crescent wrench.
It could be a dude and his buddy.
Right. So when you are thinking about you, do it. Take a class, but go out and do it. Find out for real in a safe manner.
If
and
you
then
can't, if you can't do it at range, you can do it at home with an airsoft gun, or even just dry firing, you know, in your basement or something.
Yeah.
You know, you can replicate the same thing. You know, this gives you an actual bullet hole from the actual gun you carry into
Right.
the piece of paper.
And where did you hit the target?
Yep.
And here we talked about two things. So the stationary target in this scenario, right?
Yep.
Like, if you want to make this legit, I had an idea for
You do it
alumni,
with,
and James was like, "That's gay. We already do tool or drill in advanced class." But I was thinking about having the runner start back to back with the shooter, with a rope tied to
That would
like
be
a
sick,
sled
Yeah.
on the target stand. So now that is actually coming at you.
Or do a force
Now-
on force with a guy.
You force on force would be the way to do it with an electric knife. Like,
Yeah.
fucking do that. If you've got fucking sim guns and an electric knife, like, that's the fucking way to do this thing. But short of that, the sled idea I think would work. And Andrew touched on like lateral movement, right?
Mhm.
Even that one step, how far does a matador move?
right.
How far does a matador move?
Throw them
30
off.
steps? Or that. And then that person has full steam momentum. They've got to now take an arc. So now you can be shooting them to the ground as they're trying to turn and change their path of movement.
Well, also
so
the-
lateral
and
movement
there's a lot of
will
stuff-
buy you time in a situation like this in real life.
There's a lot of stuff
Well, you're
on
proper-
from this with like other classes. Like I've seen drills from like Craig Douglas about this with other techniques. Even like training with Sank Kazikas, talking about like if a dude's throwing a strike, it's not like you move now when the strike is coming. It's like you kind of have to time it to where they're committed. There's like there's a billion things that play into this that make the 21-foot rule not credible. You know, it's like it's much
Not,
worse than
not,
that.
It's a
not
start
credible
point.
for
It's a
you
start.
to right.
It's much worse than that.
Also, with your draw, you go to training, you learn to draw the right way, because when you bring this up here, now you can, if you need to, you can start moving and putting rounds down range before you punch out. And even if I'm running backwards and trip and fall on my back, I got rounds down range, I can shoot, and now I can fight back to my feet. It would be better to be moving backwards and to trip and fall, but you're getting rounds down before this dude's on top of you. And now if he's running at you too, you've got your feet as well, but don't put your feet up while you're shooting.
And-
Whatever. I mean,
and-
it's about
yeah.
making space and prioritizing.
That lateral movement will get you more space, like space per space. I don't know how to explain it. Like if moving,
Space.
if
You're
I
getting more than you're giving.
if I move backwards 4 steps,
You're
like
probably gonna fall.
I'm not gaining as much time in
Right.
this as with him running forward at me, right? As I am if I move laterally.
Yep.
Just like if someone had a gun pointed at me and I started running backwards real fast.
Right,
Like
right.
he doesn't have to change where he's aiming as
Yeah.
much as if I do
this is
move
happening.
laterally.
Well, and that's the part
Right.
of having your proper draw, because the move to the side is while you're drawing it simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
Now when you're here, now if you've still got enough time to start making space,
Yeah.
now you can do that. You've already taken your one step, but this is why it's so important. Like that first step of your draw needs to get it here, and simultaneously you need to have that movement. Now if you need to continue doing something as you're pushing out, you're here. And so
Yeah.
like your draw is so important, and I get a lot of people like, why are you having me get up here, and why am I not just bringing it up cowboy style?
Now, I'll bet too, if we had Sonny Kazakis in the room, he might not even say to move backwards or laterally. He might even say to go into him. Might even. Maybe.
Yeah, who
and-
knows?
Or
he,
a forward
he may have
diagonal.
something crazy. He may
But-
say like roll at
I
his
mean,
legs. and-
should
Now,
we just go
knife-
bug Sonny? I mean, he's here.
I think he's headed at. He took
But
off.
like another thing to think about is like it's not necessarily like you always have to create distance away. Like
no,
if you've done knife classes,
Draw.
if you think about the fact that this dude's about to come up here and stab me, am I gonna try to outrun him, or am I gonna get into him? Am I
Dude.
gonna move the knife away?
Tommy Lee Jones, Steven Seagal. You take your knife out. Parry, 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 ching,
Right.
ching, ching,
Right.
ching, ching, ching. Right?
But this is the most important thing. We're still talking about the 21-foot rule as if the 21-foot rule is what we're supposed to be talking about. Because if I want to kill Andrew, I'm not going to be 21 feet away. I'm going to be right here, and then I'm going to be like, "Oh, hello, Andrew."
Yeah.
And so thinking about the knife this much, it doesn't make sense. What you need to realize is anyone within this distance, 21 feet, if you knew that they were at a threat at that moment and that you had to remove that threat as quickly as possible, you still wouldn't be able to do it. So that should help with you paying attention to what's going on, you thinking about your family and your kids. What if someone's 21 feet away from your kid who's 10 feet away from you? All right, so the 21-foot rule should not dictate what type of weapon you are carrying. It should motivate you to train to be as good as possible, but also fix your situational awareness and to realize that everything is a threat or could very quickly be a threat. And it's also, you look at these police and you look on TV and I'm not here to be backing the blue necessarily, but yeah, if I am in a uniform and painting a target on my back, and if you start acting a little bit weird at 21 feet, you're going to be a lot more likely to get smoked, right? Because this is my life and I'm going to defend my life. And when you're looking at police officers, that's the position that they are in. And I've seen a lot of civilians, trust me, I get big onto getting into police officers' butts. I did a whole thing in college about it.
I'll back that blue.
I'm probably considerably more anti than I am pro in a lot of these situations. However, the bottom line is if you're wearing this uniform, you're going to protect your life, and if you whip it out and you have to smoke somebody, there's a lot more to it than your average news reporter or viewer is thinking about.
Right.
But the 21-foot rule is probably not for you, except for you realizing that you have to take responsibility for your well-being and for the things around you. Carrying a knife instead of a gun or with a gun because you can get it out quicker. Look, if it takes me an extra second to pull a gun out, but I have a chance of shooting somebody, instead of them tackling me with a knife and now I'm in a knife fight on the ground, Have you lost your freaking mind?
No.
I would say the 21-foot rule for me in particular, when I'm doing the Tooler drill, it does work for if I'm at a lower ready, so I can see his hands, and after he starts moving and I come up, I start shooting. I can shoot him, but I'm still gonna get stabbed if I stay there. I know that.
Yeah.
That's where
Potentially, yeah.
I will get hits on him before he gets to me, but he's gonna get to me.
Yeah.
You know, I know that.
So check this out.
I think I just had a thought hit me as you were talking about this. I think a good way maybe to think about this is like maybe it's not a 21-foot rule. Maybe we should think of things as like a side view mirror rule. Like objects in mirror are closer than they appear. Like that thing that looks like it might be trouble might appear to be far from you, but in reality it can be on you way faster than you think.
Absolutely. I love that. So I'm going to end this out here, but in the description box below, above all of my stuff, we're going to have a link to combat art training. We're going to have a link to tactical response. Guys, I can't tell you enough. Combat art trainings in Florida, tactical response here in Tennessee. Go take some classes, get yourself out of your comfort zone. Don't ever worry like, what if I'm not good enough, or I need to do some practice before I go to class. You will be setting yourself up for failure.
Yep.
Go to class and do it as soon as you possibly can. That's it, guys. Thank you for being on the episode with me. It's been a great time. And have a blessed day. I'll talk to you in the comment section below.
I love it.
Just
Nights
video.
make me nervous.
I know. I know.